This is the first plenary session, and the subject is the entrepreneur, visionary, innovator, Superman. We've already, from Dr. Ackerman and Paul, we've really asked the question, what is an entrepreneur? Who are they? Question, how did they get started? Where did they get their finance from? What was the implication for their personal lives of being an entrepreneur? Can anyone be an entrepreneur? We have today 3 entrepreneurs. Each has a remarkable track record. They come from 3 very different cultures: Egypt, North Africa, Sweden, Japan. In addition, they come from very different sectors of the economy. Internationally diversified company, many different areas. Sports cars, racing cars, very high technology, and internet shopping in Japan, moving into China. The format is going to be, I'm going to ask each of them to speak for 2 or 3 minutes. After that, we're going to have a panel discussion for about 20 minutes. And then after that, the lights will go up and we'll have a Q&A. So first of all, I'd like to ask Shafik Gabr from Egypt, 2 or 3 minutes on entrepreneurship.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Chairman, fellow panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, really a privilege and pleasure to be here. It's my very first time to St. Gallen. And I would like to thank Dr. Ackerman and Mr. Erzinger for having been the reason for me being here. And I have to say I was extremely pleased with meeting the students yesterday and talking to them. There's a whole sense of a breath of fresh air here in St. Gallen, even if the sun has not come up yet. Entrepreneurship, in my view, is not a science. There are no fixed rules. I see entrepreneurship as an art that is closely linked to the circumstances, environment, and leadership characteristics. As a matter of fact, searching, there is no one definition for entrepreneurship. And as a matter of fact, there are many different types of entrepreneurship: innovation, necessity, and others. I come from the Arab world. As a matter of fact, in our Arabic language, there is no word for entrepreneurship. Not only that, but between the 1950s and the 1980s, the whole region was dominated by factors like central planning, socialism, conflict, and most importantly, an unwritten social contract in our countries, where you were born, you were guaranteed free health, you were guaranteed free education, subsidized goods and services, and a guaranteed job. So there was no really environment to allow for entrepreneurship to thrive and grow. Things have dramatically changed over the last 25 years. My country, Egypt, for example, has had a huge transformation, where today the private sector contribute 85% of the GDP and over 70% of employment. That is not the case across the region, of course. And for the first time, you get a sense that the concept of entrepreneurship, creativity, innovation is being encouraged with a new culture coming within universities and schools. I was born in 1952. That was the birth of the period that was dominated by nationalization, sequestration, and government control. When I turned 16, my late father looked at me and said, "This is your last allowance." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. And at a time when Cairo was going through war, all the buildings had sandbags in front of them. Our windows were painted dark blue. And the infrastructure was in a very severe state of destruction. I started something which, at the time, was a very small business to pay my way through university, and that was a messaging service across Greater Cairo. Just to give everybody a perspective, those of you who haven't been to Cairo, Cairo today is a city of 18 million people. Back then it was just above 8 million. I paid my way through university and postgraduate studies, holding different jobs, and then, against conventional wisdom, against the advice of my own parents, I went into private business. Today, 30 years later, I'm very privileged to own and lead this company, ARTOC, which is a multinational investment company operating in different sectors and different geographic areas. Guiding our success has been basically 2 principles and 5 guiding stars. The 2 principles, and I have to maintain the 2 minutes that our chairman has given us, which is, if I do succeed...
I think you've already redefined a minute.
That's entrepreneurial. The 2 principles are very basically, we never take no for an answer. We always are prepared to face adversity. We maintain an ability to adapt and change to the circumstances, and we have a drive and determination to succeed, and a huge focus on detail. Secondly, we believe that timing and opportunity are critical. Many times we found great opportunities, but the timing was not right, and vice versa. Therefore, we are always constantly investigating, learning, and researching, because we found that there has never been 2 ventures that are very much the same. Finally, the 5 rules, or the 5 guiding stars. We believe in Murphy's Law, so that if anything is going to go wrong, it will. Therefore, we always have backup plans. Secondly, we never ever assume. We always double and triple and quadruple check. Sometimes we become extremely boring in our due diligence. Third, we believe cash is king and profit is an opinion. I've always had disagreements with our bankers when our balance sheets had cash on them, but that has served us very well. Fourth, we follow an Egyptian saying that as far as your quilt, spread your feet. And we have stayed within that, keeping our leverage and risk realistic. Finally, we've never invested in things that we don't understand. In conclusion, I personally believe that fortune favors the bold and determined. And I believe one characteristic of a successful entrepreneur is just that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was great. And now, Christian von Koenigsegg from Sweden.
Yes.
Christian.
Yes, it's a great privilege and pleasure to be here today. I was asked to come to talk about my entrepreneurial experiences. And I guess that's basically what my life has been about until today. It's just about entrepreneurship. It's the only way of life I've known and seen around me since I was a young boy. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My mother is a hat designer. Well, she's retired now, but she's designed hats and a millinery within her own business. My grandfathers, both on parents' grandfather's side, were entrepreneurs. My father was an entrepreneur. And basically, I only saw this as the only way of life. I didn't ever have any other idea of kind of going into an employment and working up through a big company, through positions and so on. I only saw a possibility of one day starting my own company with my own idea and to build up a company. I believe that anyone can become an entrepreneur, but it's very important that you have it in your heart that you really want it. Unless you really, really want it and are willing to basically sacrifice anything to succeed, I don't believe you have a great chance. So as long as anyone has that will for some reason, and the reasons probably most of the time are not economically driven. As Paul said, money is a form of energy, and that's exactly how I see it. I never drive my company for the purpose of becoming rich, but I need the money and I need to focus on it to make sure the company can thrive. So that's very important, but it's not in itself a driving force. Paul also mentioned the part of risk. I mean, being an entrepreneur is a lot of handling risks and avoiding issues that can stop you and so on. And I mean, I started a company in a very traditional business, and in a country, of course, we have car industry, actually quite a lot for the size of our company, for our country. But still, building sports cars in Sweden is pretty much impossible, especially before I started, everyone said it was impossible. And that was kind of the outset, the outlook, this is impossible. And I didn't really care about that because I knew I wanted to do it and I was willing to risk and sacrifice anything to make it happen. And I early on said to myself that it doesn't matter if it's easy or difficult, whatever you do in life, if you have a very smooth ride, a successful life or not, because in the end, you're dead anyway. So it doesn't really matter what you do. So there is nothing to lose to do whatever you want, whether you succeed or not, whether it's very, very difficult or whether it's very, very easy. In the end, you are dead. So there's nothing to lose. You can use that argument the other way around, of course, saying that why do anything? But in my book, it was worth doing everything. So basically, that's my outset as an entrepreneur, and I'm very happy to be here today to share my experiences with you. Thank you very much.
And now Hiroshi Mikitani.
Okay.
Can I say it's wonderful to have you here.
Oh, thank you very
We
much.
thought
and,
maybe you
sorry to
got
be late.
caught up in the volcanic ash.
Well, we were supposed to arrive at Zurich yesterday, and the airport already told us that they're going to completely shut down the airport at 10 p.m. And if we are, 1 minute late, we cannot land. So we decided to land to Milan instead to Zurich. So sorry to be late, but it's my honor to be part of this great event. And my name is Hiroshi Mikitani. I am the CEO and founder of Japanese internet company called Rakuten. We started our company in 1997. And we started from scratch with my younger partner, who was a graduate school student at that time. Unlike our competitors in the United States, we started from our own capital, which was $200,000. And never raised any money from VCs. I'm sure there are so many venture capital people here, so to tell you about that, but never raised any money from VC. We went public in year 2000, and we caught the very first boat, last boat of the first internet bubble. So we raised about $500 million from our IPO, and since then, we have been aggressively expanding our business in terms of scope and in terms of scale. Now we are by far number one in e-commerce, number one in online travel, number one in online banking, number two in online brokerage. So we have about 38 internet-related business, and market cap is about $11 billion. But one thing we know is we have been very Japan-centric company. We didn't expand globally until 3 or 4 years ago. And whereby our competitors, like Google, Amazon, eBay, have aggressively expanded their business into other countries. So now we have decided to grow outside of Japan. And I think now we converted the internal language of our company from Japanese to English, which I don't think there's any Japanese company who really tried to do it. And we believe our business model is very unique. And I think we can really execute what we have done in Japan in other countries. And I'm very looking forward to sharing my experience. And I have a work session in the afternoon, and looking forward to exchanging many ideas. Thank you very much.
I wonder if I can just ask you one question. I mean, the thing that hits me is, first of all, that all of you have tremendous commitment. You have given it 110%. Secondly, it's very obvious that being an entrepreneur is really in your DNA. And that raises for me the question, and it came out particularly, Christian, in what you said. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they're all entrepreneurs. You know, in America, there's the idea anybody can be president. Can anyone really be an entrepreneur? Or is there not something in your makeup, in your giftedness, in your motivational pattern, which really you need to be? If you're addressing today students, is it right to say to people, yes, all of you can be entrepreneurs if you want to? How would you respond to this?
Well, I think first I'm not as lucky as Christian is. I don't have it in my DNA. My grandfather was in politics during the days of the king. My late father was a diplomat. I sort of was the black sheep of the family. I personally think everything has a cost. If you are willing to pay that cost and you have that determination, then you can go ahead and do it. But let me add one thing that was a bit surprising that I saw yesterday talking to a student here. He's a student that is from New Zealand, lived in different parts of Europe, and is a student here in St. Gallen. Talking to him, and I was sort of engaging him in many things, he said to me that he was so surprised how he is seeing many and many more European students not willing to take risk, but rather wanting to maintain a closer environment to what they know rather than what they don't know. And I think one thing about entrepreneurs is you always need to have that determination to discover, investigate, and be able to learn and see where the opportunities really are and take that risk.
Christian.
Yeah, I think anyone can become an entrepreneur, but you have to have a good reason and you have to be willing to sacrifice. And to be willing to sacrifice usually means you need to have passion, a great passion that takes away other things in life, I guess. Personally, I've kind of organized it that way that it's a family business. So my wife works in the company. We work very close to where we live. I don't separate work from my private life. I see it as my hobby and as vacation. Well,
he said, "Is your private life a hobby?"
Basically, what I'm saying, I'm trying to reduce the sacrifice, but still, and I really enjoy what I do, and I have I think a very good family set up that way. But still, you need to select away a few other things in life that most people cherish. And I guess it's not for everyone to do that. So you need to have a passion for it for some reason. Where it comes from, it's difficult to say. But if it's not there, you probably will not succeed. And therefore, from that point of view, it might not be for everyone. But still saying that, I think everyone can get the passion if the right circumstances and reasons are surrounded by it.
I love the can-do Scandinavian spirit there. That it's not just American. Hiroshi.
So I was an investment banker, and nobody thought I would become an entrepreneur when we started business. And looking back on, I think there is two things which is very important to become a successful entrepreneur. Everybody can become an entrepreneur. The question is whether they can become a successful entrepreneur or not. Right? And to become a successful entrepreneur...
That's a very helpful distinction.
I think you need two things. One is you need to be innovative, right? You need to be innovative, and you need to believe in new concept, which many people probably don't believe. When we started our business, many people in Japan said, for example, our competitor SoftBank told us, you should import your business model from US. And you don't want to create your own business model in Japan. But I did not like that idea, so we started from scratch and created completely different business models from our US competitors. So you need to be innovative and you need to believe in yourself. And two, I think you need to have a strong leadership and passion. And that is not easy, I think.
Can I just ask you one question, and then we'll be starting this time with Christian, and then I'm going to throw it open to Q&A. Can I ask each of you, where did you get the idea that you wanted, that you ultimately took forward? I tell you why. I think by temperament, I'm quite entrepreneurial, but I've never, ever wanted to start a business. And I don't know why that is. I've run a lot of things and started a lot of things in the university world, and in 10 Downing Street was very entrepreneurial. But I'm very interested, what was it that you said when you went into messaging? You know, what gave you, motor cars, what really, or sports cars? And similarly, the internet, I mean, what really kind of, how did you arrive at that? Christian,
Yes.
and then...
So, first of all, I think, I'm not sure if this is general for all entrepreneurs, but I never thought of what I'm doing as a business. I never said to myself, I want to start a business. I wanted to build sports cars. That was my passion. I wanted to do that since I was 5 years old. I saw a Norwegian stop-motion puppet movie about a bicycle repairman who built himself a sports car on a Norwegian mountaintop. And I was so fascinated by this, and I walked out to the cinema and said, that's what I want to do when I grow old, when I grow up, when I have the chance. And as I said, I was surrounded by entrepreneurs. That was a way of life. And I wanted to build sports cars. So as soon as I had the chance, I did it. I started it. And it wasn't a business to me. I didn't have a business plan as such when I came up with the idea. I just thought, I can build a very, very good car. And if I can do that, someone is probably going to want to buy it. And if they do that, I probably can build another one. So basically, that was the whole plan. It wasn't about thinking about entrepreneurship or business or whatever.
Did you have an engineering background?
No, I didn't.
How in that case could you build a good car without being an engineer?
Well, I don't want to draw parallels to myself and Einstein, because there's a very big difference here. But he was able to, I think about him a lot of the time, because he was able, sitting in a cafe, I think somewhere in Austria, thinking, how does the universe work? And he figured it out without any prior knowledge. He couldn't read it in a book. No one could tell him in a university how that happened. And it was proven right later when you could calculate it on computers and so on. And given that, of course it is possible for anyone to figure out how to build a car.
Yes. Hiroshi.
So when we started business in 1996. The company was founded in 1997. But at that time, internet shopping was not so popular.
In Japan?
In Japan and in the US as well, in Europe as well. And the people believe that internet will become very popular. But doing business on the internet, you know, many people are very questionable about that. So we made like 4 hypotheses, like internet will be popular, people will stop buying things from the internet, and so forth and so forth. And you know, as the entrepreneur, we need to bet on those hypotheses. And so, you know, that is what we thought the future. We thought future will be in internet retail. So that's why we started this business, I think.
Did you have a passion for the product? As an investment banker, you must have had a passion for money. Because
no, I was not performance paid, but so. Well, I think in Japan, there were not so many entrepreneurs at that time. So, and I was working as a very traditional Japanese, what we characterize as salaryman. And one of my passion is to become role model, so that younger people will become more challenging and try to new kind of businesses.
That's fantastic.
So that was one of the reasons why I started my own company instead of joining other IT-related companies.
I think, to add to everybody's comments, we have a passion for discovering the unknown and going a little bit beyond the norm and having a fast learning curve. When we did our messaging service, because there was no communication, we found an opportunity, a niche. Our company registered...
Where did the idea come from?
Well, at the time in Cairo, for you to do a phone call across the city, a city at war, you had to wait for 5-6 minutes for a dialing tone. And we found there was an opportunity to be able to get messages, packages across the city in an efficient, fast manner that was reliable.
And how old were you then?
I was 16. I had to pay for my. I wanted to join the American University in Cairo. I had the great interest in going into a whole different educational system from the normal Egyptian system, which was based on memorization. So I couldn't afford it. I made a deal with my father. He would pay for the first year if I am doing a job. And if I succeeded and got a scholarship, I stay. If I failed, I went across the city to Cairo University, paid him for the 1 year, and continued in the free educational system. No, I did get the scholarship. As a matter of fact, I even was paid $6 a month by the American University for the remainder of my 4 years. But very frankly, we have focused on going places where others haven't gone yet. I mean, for example, we have not followed everybody by going to China, but we were one of the very first big investors going to the Czech Republic in 1990. Now we're going to Armenia, we're going to Albania, and applying our success models in Egypt and other countries there. So our focus is a little bit different.
Thank you. I'd now like to open it up to questions and answers from the floor. I feel I need new glasses to operate in this environment. I can see a hand up here. Is there another? And a hand up here, and a hand up there. So that's 3 questions. One here, one there. Can we have a microphone to this gentleman? Maybe you can say your name, where you're from, and then the question. I should also say 2 to 3 minutes. Some people did better than others, but it's not an occasion. Do express an opinion, but it's not an occasion for speeches.
My name is Adrian Graf. I'm from Germany. My question is directed to Mr. Mikitani on behalf of the introduction from Lord Griffith. He said you're currently expanding into the market of China. Can you tell us about the market environment and the weaknesses and maybe also the opportunities you are facing currently?
In China?
In China?
Yes. So China, for me, example, like maybe 5 years ago, we thought the market is very, very small. People don't buy products from the internet. But now it's expanded very rapidly. The market growth is like 40% year on year. And one dominant player, Alibaba, primarily controls the market. And Chinese people buys products from the internet. And it's different. Basically, it's like what we do in Japan. The business model is very similar. The major problem of Chinese e-commerce is significant portion of the products sold on the internet is counterfeit product, fake products. And as a company, we go there. Our challenge is we have a very strict rule in Japan not to sell the fake products. But if you go to China, it's sort of semi-forgiven, right? So what shall we do about it? That is the most challenge we are facing right now. But we decided to partner with the large search engine company called Baidu, and they have the massive amount of traffic. Because whenever we go in, we have business in Taiwan, we have business in Thai. We are now expanding in other countries. I think we're going to expand into 10 countries this year. Always the issue is how we can get the traffic. And Baidu is our ideal partner to expand our business in China because they have a traffic.
Gentleman here.
My name is Daniel Walker. I'm with the Swiss Foreign Ministry. Gentlemen, is it possible to be an entrepreneur in the public sector? Christian seems to have already given an answer. If Einstein was an entrepreneur, it is possible. He actually wasn't in an Austrian cafe. He was sitting as a Swiss civil servant in Bern. when he thought up his theory of relativity.
Right.
But given the situation today where the public sector becomes a major force, especially since the crisis in the private sector too, is it possible to be an entrepreneur in the public sector?
Can I say that's a great question? Shafik,
Well, I not only think that it is possible, I've even seen it with my own eyes being an entrepreneur in politics. I mean, in my own country, in Egypt, President Sadat was an entrepreneur. He went against the total conventional wisdom. He took a huge calculated risk. He started peace in the Arab world with Israel. And it was a situation, for those of us who remember, going back, was one that was extremely entrepreneurial, one that many people around the world thought would fail. But as a matter of fact, it succeeded, and there is still peace between Israel and Egypt over 40 years later. So yes, I think the answer is yes. Of course, there is no set rules, and it depends on circumstances, it depends on the specific leadership traits in the institution that you're referring to.
Hiroshi.
I think so. In terms of politics, in terms of educations, now we see many people starting new parties in Japan, for example, jumping out from the, for example, the LDP or Democratic Party in Japan. You know, my friends are starting new parties, political parties, and they're very challenging. And I think it is possible, and especially in the educational area, we are seeing many people starting new initiatives as well.
Christian.
I think anyone who wants to change a given structure, a market is very much a similar structure to a big social organization or a country or anything like that. So anyone who's willing to kind of go 45 degrees on the diagonal and change within a market or within a political party or within any kind of structure, you have the same set of emotions, feelings, and visions of what we call an entrepreneur.
Can I just add one thing? I worked for 5.5 years for Mrs. Thatcher, but advised her before that. But if you think of her as an entrepreneur, starting the concept, which was 1980, it was only 30 years ago, of privatization. At the time, privatization was an extraordinary new concept. After that, when I worked for her, we looked at the whole school system and introduced endless changes, giving parents greater choice, encouraging new kinds of school to be set up, introducing some minimum standard with examinations and a national curriculum and so on, and then went on to other areas of the economy in an equally innovative sense. So I think in politics, one can certainly be innovative, and certainly within the university world, which I know best in Britain, once again, it's been a tremendous area. So I think the answer must be, from all of the panel, and certainly myself as well, yes. Gentleman now further back.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey. I'm currently a graduate student at Yale University. I run an organization doing economics and business training in Pyongyang, North Korea. And my question is to Mr. Gabr. So one of the things I was trying to do, sorry, is it working? Hello? Okay, sorry. One of the things I was trying to do is to get North Korean students to apply to the St. Gallen Symposium to learn about entrepreneurship. And it came on the conversation that, oh, there wasn't the word entrepreneurship in North Korea. It wasn't something that could be done as a capitalist thing. And I was just wondering how has the word entrepreneurship entered the vocabulary in Egypt? And how would you go about encouraging it in North Korea? Thank you.
Do I have 2 minutes? There's the good news and there's the bad news. But the bad news is that you will find that the environment, the culture, the regulations are usually a huge obstacle in a country like North Korea, which does not have still the understanding of the entrepreneurship circumstances. But the good news, very simply, is this, that he who is willing to pay the price and start down that path will find very little competition. And if he's determined, persistent, and willing to go the extra mile, you will find the returns are incredibly positive. When I started back in my country, Our company, which has been in business for 38 years, was registration number 62 in the private sector. And everybody was sort of looking and saying, you're never going to survive this experience. This experience is not going to happen. It was the days of which the Egyptian economy was dominated by business from the Soviet Union and Comecon countries, and therefore I went against conventional wisdom. But if you're willing to do that, I think you will have that opportunity. And don't listen to the skeptics. You have to read the environment yourself.
I wonder if there is, sorry, let him have the applause. I wonder if there's maybe some ladies or women who are potential entrepreneurs. I see one waving a hand.
There are two there, yes.
Is there another one? Yes, I see another one back up there. It's two ladies.
Thank you. My name is Yoko Ishikura. I'm from Tokyo. My question is there a phase 2 of the entrepreneurship? And the reason why I asked that question is that it seems like Mr. Mikitani and Mr. Gabr from Egypt are into the phase 2 of the entrepreneurship, as far as I know, in a sense of going into different countries and so forth. My question is, has the entrepreneurship changed when you go into the phase 2 of your operation, or does it stay the same way? How do you manage the transformation?
I say that's a fascinating question. I think certainly with Mr. Gabr and Mr. Mikitani, I think they're in phase 61.
61.
Where they are. But Hiroshi, why didn't you start and then?
I'm a strong believer of the concept of stage management. And entrepreneurship is all about innovation and operation, right? So in early stages, innovation is more important. As you grow, operation and strategy will become more important. So yes, there's phase 2. And especially if you're trying to expand into other countries, you have another challenge. You need to mix up the management team with more international people. And that is totally different from just doing business in Japan. And then we do multiple businesses, so we need to manage different, industries. And so it's just totally different from running maybe like 10, 20 people, small companies.
I think your question, I'm the oldest person on this panel, so your question really...
No, you're not, I am. I hate to say it, but...
Our structure is we have a holding company, and then we have operating companies that are doing business in different areas, in different countries. And our biggest challenge is succession and our ability to create that entrepreneurial spirit in the different parts of the organization. And that's the phase we are in right now. Because as good as we have in management, and I think I agree with Mr. Mikitani, is that you have different environments in different countries, and therefore you need to have local people come in, but you need to instill that entrepreneurial spirit in the whole structure. I travel about 160 to 180 days a year, many on 1-day, 2-day trips. That's the price that I pay. Unfortunately, I don't have the same benefits Christian has of having his office near his home and having the family working with him. So my deep sense is, yes, there are phases. And the phase that we are in is basically this on one side. And the other side, which is very important for me, is a phase of giving back. So we do a lot of social entrepreneurship in the underprivileged areas in the countries in which we operate. And it's something we're very, very proud of, and something that we try and do in a manner where we believe that to have successful social entrepreneurship, it has to come from successful entrepreneurs and not by government funding or third-party assistance. And that's the sort of spirit we're trying to instill at this phase.
Christian, do you have a car? I don't know if you're in phase 1.
Well, depends on how you look at it. We talked about being in different markets. We are actually, I think, in 10 different countries already. We're, I think, the smallest global company in the world with 50 employees. But still, in a way, I think I consider myself in in phase one, as it has taken quite a long time with this complex technical business to make money. We are in that phase now. We've been making money for a little while now, which is nice after many, many years of striving to get to that point. But I was almost getting to phase two, I guess, last year when we tried to buy Saab. So that was kind of the phase two for me. In the end, we backed off, but yeah, I'm getting towards phase two soon, I guess.
Very good. Well, we wish you well in that. A lady further back.
Yes, thank you. My name is Françoise Thomas. I'm Executive Vice President of Luxembourg State and Savings Bank. And actually, while we are sitting here, very, very important things are happening in Europe and especially in Greece. And Angad Paul said just a moment ago that one of the biggest threats and one of the biggest problems for entrepreneurship is fear, actually. So I feel that very much of what is happening right now in Greece and maybe in other countries is about being furious about the past and fearful of the future. So as running a country and also running Europe is a little bit or even very much like a big entrepreneurial experience as well, what could this symposium's very practical message be, especially for the Greece government, maybe for other European governments, and for Europe as such? Thank you.
Can I say, you deserve an Alpha Plus for starting with one question and finishing with another. It was nothing short of genius, I have to tell you. Gentlemen, this is about entrepreneurship in the Greek situation.
Greek.
Maybe I can just start a little. You know, I think the Greek situation is desperately serious because if you look at the financial crisis, and I say this as somebody very involved in Goldman Sachs in London, what has happened since the financial crisis, a huge fall in world output, particularly in certain countries. At the same time as the recovery has begun, compensation in banks has gone up. And the anger of the public at the differentials which have been created is now so visible, tangible, that you almost feel embarrassed to say that you work in a bank. And yesterday, when you see people setting light to a bank and 3 people being killed, and then you realize the cuts that have to come in Greece, if you want to call that enterprise. I look at Britain, we have an election today. None of the 3 major parties has addressed the issue. Our budget is predicted to be worse than Greece's. In terms of how we tackle that, that is a huge challenge and requires all the skills of an entrepreneur. But it seems to me, unless the politicians are prepared to really tackle that, and of course I go back to Mrs. Thatcher because she faced a very similar sort of situation. The British disease, the place was on strike, she had to take on the unions, particularly the National Union of Mine Workers and so on. It was the police against union workers. The fabric of our society was really being tested. And I think that must be the greatest challenge, really, for any entrepreneur.
No, I totally agree with you, Chairman, and I think it's a very serious question, but maybe one that goes beyond just a couple of minutes of an answer. I wrote an article last September sort of seeing that we have been, for a period of time, having a great party. And I don't think the culprit was only the financial institutions. It was everybody, including ourselves. It was governments that spent beyond their means. This huge party was very successful. The model was making money for everyone. People benefited beyond their dreams. It was a total sort of lack of memory in terms of risk. And where we are right now is we're in the aftermath of that party. And we need to take our Alka-Seltzer and we need to make sure that we get over this hangover seriously. And as you have just said, it's not going to take conventional means. And politicians are going to have to step up and unfortunately take difficult decisions in the short term. There is no long term to deal with these issues. And it's going to cost them. And are they willing to do that? Just as banks, as you have just rightly said, are also going to have a cost to pay. So I think, and Greece is, I believe, just another tip of the same iceberg. My gut feeling tells me that we will not forget the scenes that we saw on television yesterday very soon. I think those will be repeated. I hope that I'm wrong, but that's not going to be the case.
Christian.
Yeah, I think we have to get back in kind of into a different mental shift where generating this energy, as Paul said, we call money, comes from work. What I've seen around my surrounding is the last like 5 or 10 years, many people have believed that if they buy a nice house, it's supposed to go up in value, and it's natural for that value to be higher in increase than what you actually make for a living by working. And of course, when that change and house prices go down and interest go up or whatever, it's uncomfortable. And people have, to a certain degree, lost the understanding for that it is work that generates prosperity. And I'm not saying that Greek people are any worse in that situation or anything like that, but it's just a general mental shift that has to turn back to generating real value and not this kind of balloon situation we have been seeing.
Hiroshi.
Well, as an Asian entrepreneur, I don't think I'm in a position to comment on the Greek situation, but I think the all companies...
we comment enough on Asia.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, I think all countries are like the same. You know, the Japan, we have a huge governmental deficit problems, and I always talk with very top and the politicians very frequently. And whenever I talk with them, I think they lack two things. One is accountability, and the other is agility. They are very slow. They don't know what they are doing, and they don't have numbers. They don't have KPI. For example, they don't have key performance indexes or whatever. So they are not very number oriented. And somebody needs to pay, and there is no dream world in the universe. And I think all these citizens need to face the truth. We need to work hard, we need to be competitive, and the government need to streamline their budget. And I think there's sort of now global trend that government wanted to be nice. Really, after the sort of subprime loan crisis, now they're becoming a little bit more socialistic. And this is, I think, very, very dangerous.
I'm afraid that time is almost up, but this, as you know, gentlemen, is a conference organized by the students. And some of the students are thinking of becoming entrepreneurs. They want to do their own thing and so on. And I'd like the three of you, if you would, to give them the advice which you feel you've gained from your experience that will help them. What advice would you give them as they think about the future? Let's start with Christian first.
Yes. Well, first of all, I think you should only become an entrepreneur, meaning, I guess, start a company, if you have a very good reason to do so. Not just because it might be a trendy thing to do or something like that, or that you saw someone else being successful at something and you long for the same. More look towards in yourself to see, do I have something special to contribute? Am I willing to sacrifice a lot for it? Can I visualize a path forward? Can I see the next step I need to take and maybe the next one? If you kind of get into that emotion and you have the realization that it might take a lot of sacrifice and I'm really willing to do it, then it might be a good idea.
I don't know if I'm in a position to give advice because when my turn came up, I went against the advice that was given to me. So, but I agree with Christian that if you have a vision, don't take the advice of people that you can't do it. But you have to understand that you need to get the resources put together. Try and learn from other people's experiences so you don't repeat the same mistakes. But definitely, if you're willing to pay the price, I would say go for it and don't look behind.
Okay. So I think entrepreneurship is again about innovation and operation. And unless you have very creative idea right now in your mind, I think you should try to get quite an extensive knowledge about operations first. Unless some people are very genius, and they are characterized as serial entrepreneurs. They start a business, sell it, start a business, sell it. They do it many, many times. But they are very exceptional people, I think. And if you're like that, you may want to do it that way. Otherwise, I think you should try to master the operationals, knowledges and skills. And then I think the probability of success will become much, much more higher. So many people from my company, leave our company and start their business. Some of their market cap is like $3, $4, $5 billion. And they probably didn't like the way I managed the company at that time. But now what they're telling me is, I do exactly what you are doing, right? So I would encourage the student who wanted to start their own company in the future to pick the right company, which is innovative enough and moving fast, and learn things quickly, and then start your own business.
Never fear failure. I mean, if you fear failure, you're gonna fail, and even if you fail, don't look at it that way. In our in 38 years, we've had companies that have failed, and we've had successful companies we've sold. So it's a whole process, and it's not just single dimension. It's very multidimensional.
Can I say, I think this has been a fascinating session. We have 3 very successful entrepreneurs here. We also had Angad Paul earlier.
Right here.
Where is he?
He's
Here
returned.
He is. I should say Angad is also a very successful entrepreneur. He runs a diversified manufacturing business. But in addition to that, he's also a filmmaker. He's made some very well-known cult films. And in addition to that, he's also set up a company called Established & Sons, which is at the cutting edge of furniture design, not just in the UK, but in Europe and the world. So he's a real entrepreneur. 3 things have really hit me, I must say, as you spoke. The first is the vision. The vision, there's war going on, and this man sees a vision of what to do. A 5-year-old sees a sports car on top of a Norwegian mountain, probably a cartoon film. Hiroshi, he stands back from Japanese society and says, I want to do something in Japanese society, almost to create enterprise within the society, quite apart from the business in itself. Secondly, I was very impressed. It was Christian who first used the word sacrifice. And I must say, I've met many entrepreneurs over the years. The one thing they all have in common is that they've sacrificed. They've sacrificed their time. I will also say, I think, Christian, you're in a very fortunate position. I think some of them have sacrificed relationships, but sacrifice is at the heart of it. And thirdly, there's this sense of attention to detail. If you think about it, whether it's Einstein sitting down figuring out engineering, or whether it's how do you get messaging across Cairo, or whether it's internet shopping, enormous attention to detail to absolutely get it right. I think it's been a fascinating session. Would you please give them a big hand? We're clapping you.